Thank you for joining me, Eugina, to discuss generative AI for business. Um, let's dive in on our first question. What are some of the top use cases that you see various business sectors leveraging generative AI?
Okay, so maybe we can identify what AI is first, then the types of AI, and then we'll dive into generative AI.
Absolutely.
So, and thank you. So for people that don't know, AI been around since 1950s. It's basically the intelligence that is performed, created by machines, by computers. And that's when computers been created in the 50s. So they're humans like you and I. That's our intelligence. And machine intelligence is by computers. So once people know it, it's really simple explain what machines can do. And machines with their intelligence or artificial intelligence, they can predict things. That's predictive AI. And in many industries, it's been around for a while. Then there is also communications AI, and it's your chatbots, and it's developed in many, many, many industries. And right now, they're being moved from just simple chatbots to generative AI and predictive AI chatbots. Then there's also reinforcement learning AI. It's been around in gaming industries and robotics forever, forever, forever. And now again in robotics, it's being combined with predictive and generative AI. And there is also natural language processing that feeds into multi modes with Gen AI. So Gen AI is being fed by all those different types of AI to produce something. And that's why it's called generative AI. It produces images, it produces maps, it produces conversations, it produces decisions, it produces all kinds of things via machine. So if we look now, understanding what types of AI and Gen AI, going back to your question about the use cases, and here we're going to concentrate on business use cases because there's also consumer aspect to AI where you and I will go, work, create things in ChatGPT. But this is strictly for business, Gen AI for business. And use cases, I'm going to separate them by function and I'm going to separate them by industry.
Okay.
So the most prominent use cases by function are number one for marketing with content creation, image creation, where it maximizes time of cash-strapped or time-strapped marketers. It can create really good content, and where humans fit in is they become editors. They provide really good prompts for AI to create blogs, white papers, social media posts, and then they edit it for tone, clarity, and so on. So that is a very prominent use case right now. Then for customer service, as we discussed, there are AI chatbots that can predict, that can generate responses. And obviously, it needs to be monitored by humans because AI hallucinates. So we don't want to run into issues where AI hallucinated, AI generated conversations with chatbots hallucinated. And then companies, airlines, financial institutions, they ended up paying millions of dollars for those hallucinations.
Yeah.
So that second one is the chatbots for improving customer experience. And the last one by function, I would probably say it's the finance, because finance function can benefit from automation of reports, automation of forecasts and risk. So now we covered the functions, the most prominent use cases for marketing, customer experience, and finance. I'm not covering engineering because engineering is really challenged right now with the code accuracy, and it requires a lot of oversight from humans. Hugging Face is trying to fix those issues, and hopefully in a year from now, engineers will be able to use artificial intelligence to create their code. If we look at some other use cases, in addition to functional, there are overall business use cases. And there are companies like Gemini or even, ChatGPT, Copilot. They can optimize different business productivity aspect of the way we work. Unfortunately, it's not properly implemented, and that creates challenges because it needs to be, if let's say a financial company, financial institution is using Copilot, it needs to be, and again, I'm not, Copilot, I'm going to say business tool, right? I don't want to pick on Copilot.
Sure.
So if a financial institution is trying to implement business tool, they need to ensure that the tool been trained on their data and their regulations. You cannot just give the tool to your team and say, run with it. You need to properly train the tool. So this is the most popular use cases that can be applied across different industries, from healthcare to finance to telecom, to improve their marketing, improve their customer experience, and improve how they do business.
Absolutely, absolutely. So if we look the synergies comparing what you mentioned to the telco industry, I think marketing and customer experience are common. And as you very well explained the difference between how we were using AI before generative AI, this is a place where the network operations team were anyway using some predictive analytics and so on. I don't see it's that is continuing as far as looking for AI in network operations. But I agree with you. It's not the Gen AI part, which we see prominent use cases currently in telco. And I agree with the other sectors that you mentioned. So let me come to the next question. What is your view on having industry-specific generative AI? And do you see some sectors excelling better at this?
Great question. And I'm going to answer it because you and I, we're telecom industry veterans. Between us, we probably have 50 plus experience, and we're not even that old. So if we look at healthcare and if we look at telecom, there is a word cell. So in healthcare or in pharma, in anything that is related to medicine, the word cell means different than what we classify as a cell in telecom. It's a cell type. So if generic LLM, and there's plenty of open and closed LLMs, and there are also SLMs, the small language models out there. So if it's a generic LLM and it's untrained, it's gonna generate generic responses. So, and that's, that is a challenge. So the strategy would be is taking an open LLM, and there's plenty on the market, training it with your data, upskilling your people how to put the data into that generic LLM, and also figuring out what would be the process to train and then implement. So even for, like you and I we discussed, even for marketing, you cannot use generic LLM. The reason that generic LLMs perform really, really well for marketing, it's because they've been trained, and there's no different, types of marketing. It's very simple, and it's not simple. I do marketing. It's not simple, but it's defined. So my answer is yes. If there is specific data, is you use specific language, if you have lingo in your industry, you need a specific LLM.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we were talking earlier, there is like global telecom operators came together and formed Global Telco AI Alliance. Do you see similar initiatives across other industry verticals?
Great question. And we were talking at the beginning of this about Global Telco Alliance announcing that they're going to be building LLM. They announced it today in multiple languages. And we were laughing because, and I love my telcos, right? So I love my telcos, but we don't like to share. So, and I think the reason that alliance exists, and the reason there is a joint venture, because that's been identified as an issue. That's why that alliance is hoping to solve that issue, because unless you have data to train that LLM from US operators, European operators, Asian operators, it's not going to be a really good LLM. So surprisingly enough, there is not that many specific industry alliances. Telco is very unique, and I think it's because of what you and I discussed. There is what's happening in other industries, in healthcare or in automotive. They have AI initiatives within industry organizations. So, and like, for example, I work for TIP, and we do have a telco AI group because we have access to the ecosystem. So to answer your question, what I'm seeing in the industry in the street, in the world, in relations to alliances or organizations for Gen AI, I'm seeing two things. Number one is companies are forming alliances like OpenAI and the 16 companies that they signed agreement with. Small companies, large companies, hardware companies, software companies. That's number one. Number two is the regulations that governments are trying to put. And there are a few prominent companies. Obviously, it's the US, and different departments within the federal and state government are addressing it. There are different bills on the table. That's country number one. The European Union is addressing some of the concerns around ethical AI and responsible AI. So there is a few regulations there. And the most important one, if companies generate content marketers with AI, they need to specify. And it's a good thing, because we all know how those models were trained. They were trained on content that were not authorized, people, publications or authors didn't give their permission. So, and the other one is interesting one. It's recently there was a summit in Seoul where multiple governments came in, and they were talking about unified approach to AI. The challenge is with geopolitics, China is being excluded of those conversations. And there's a lot of isolation happening in China. And there's its own Gen AI startups, their own regulations, their own challenges. For example, in China right now, and I'm not seeing it, anywhere else, only in China, where LLMs are driving the costs down. So, and that's how they compete over there. So in other parts of the world, we compete with innovation, not the cost. And time will tell what alliances will survive, what alliances will not survive. And the more private and public sector work on developing those regulations, the better it will be for the future of AI.
Absolutely. So to your point, I agree to some extent on the telco alliance, but as you rightly mentioned, there are also one-on-one alliances. Like recently we saw SKT investing, South Korea Telecom investing heavily with the startup that they are investing in. So I see a good number of one-on-one alliances where operators are heavily investing, whether they are on the device side or whether they are really on the pure telco side. But I see that alliance is part one, but there is that one-on-one partnerships not only with the open AIs, open source generative AIs, but also among themselves. So coming to the next question, what kind of challenges do you see some of these businesses are facing in integrating generative AI in their business landscape?
Great question. So I would say there are 4 challenges. And it's been talked about those challenges a lot. And we need to start moving from talking about it to trying to solve it. And maybe this is where the telco alliance will come in around first challenge, which is data. So in many organizations, the data is not easily accessible. It's fragmented. It's siloed. It's also not quality data. It hasn't been cleaned up. And there's no policies around security or privacy, how the data is going to be managed. For example, there is many laws where you cannot move data from person in one geographical location to another geographical location. So it is understood with any other type of services. And that's why many hyperscalers, they have local data centers because the data cannot move. So it's not just the, where you're going to get the data, but also how you're going to secure implement it, how you're going to host it. If there is a failover necessary when one of your cloud locations is down, where is it going to fail over? And if it's going to be in different country, what are the implications? So it's data and how you're going to move it to ensure it's doesn't violate any regulations. So that's number one. Number two, it's your team. We all hear, clickbaits, right? Oh, AI is going to take jobs. AI is not going to take jobs. AI is going to make people like you and me more efficient, more productive, and it's going to give us visibility in how our business is doing. So it's going to make us better professionals. But it's going to take time, and people need to have growth mindset, and organizations need to empower their individuals to get upskilled on Gen AI. So It's having the right people, the right learning platforms, and the right processes to train those people.
Mm-hmm.
And I always encourage people to go out there and learn. There's so many free resources. So
Mm-hmm.
instead of doing this at night, if you are worried about your job, spend 30 minutes instead of this watching a YouTube Google training. There is a whole bunch of free
Yeah.
training videos. That's how I learned.
Yeah. Really.
So I'm not an exception. I'm a 53-year-old woman that wants to stay relevant.
Yeah.
So be, like me. So that's two.
Two. Yeah.
Uh, Number three, and this is where I'm going to put my executive hat on, and I'm going to challenge the executives out there,
Mm-hmm.
is before you ask your team,
Mm-hmm.
once you upskill them, once you know where your data is from, or in parallel, identify the objectives,
Yeah.
identify the ROI for your Gen AI implementation. Don't run and say, oh my God, we need to implement Gen AI. Sit down, stop clicking, the clickbaits about you being behind. There's only probably 20% of businesses worldwide in the first phase of implementing Gen AI, so you're not behind.
Yeah.
Identify objectives and return on your investment. What areas it's going to be? If it's customer experience, is it going to reduce churn? By how much? If it's going to be for your engineering, how are you going to improve the productivity and what the quality of code produced with Gen AI is going to be? So over 50% data shows businesses right now don't do it. They test and build models for the sake of jumping on the bandwagon,
Mm-hmm.
and they're going to have to redo that work. Organizations that take a step back and identify the objectives and ROI will win in this long race. And number four,
Mm-hmm.
we saw the news that one of the co-founders for OpenAI, Ilya,
Mm-hmm.
started a new startup today, the SSI, the Responsible AI. It's becoming one of the, not just the buzzwords, responsible, ethical AI,
Mm-hmm.
but this is what, as business leaders,
Mm-hmm.
we're going to continue thinking. Is we're going to protect the data? Is we're going to use the LLMs that were developed ethically? How we're going to implement the regulations, if there are regulations? How we're going to protect our users?
Mm-hmm.
So, and I'm hoping that though it is number four,
Mm-hmm.
in my mind, it's going to be across all.
Mm-hmm.
So data, is it ethically sourced data? Responsible.
Mm-hmm.
Two, are we teaching our team how to be use AI responsibly and ethically? And are we developing tools that are not biased? And
Yes.
three, as executives, are we considering this in our ROI and objectives? Are we including ethical implementation as a part of our objectives?
Thanks, Eugina. Gina, you mentioned these four challenges. Have you seen some best practices or effective strategies? How different businesses are addressing these challenges?
Unfortunately, not yet. There's
Uh-huh.
probably one business that comes to mind
Uh-huh.
when McDonald's stopped their chatbot. A couple of days ago, they decided they're not going to use AI generated chatbot for their kiosks
Okay.
because of errors and mistakes.
Yes.
So um, we're seeing um, when companies decide not to proceed
Mm-hmm.
because they've learned and now they're going to, stop pilots and proceed with something else.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still early on. And when I'm asked that question, I give the timeline. OpenAI was formed in 2016. This was the first, when what's his name, Musk, for the chip or the server from NVIDIA, gave it to OpenAI founders and said, run with it.
Yeah.
So, and they launched in November of 2023.
Yeah.
I mean, 22.
22,
So just,
sorry.
yeah. Just 2 years, not even 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of examples right now. There is I see a lot of launches. Different tools are being launched, and we just need to continue.
So lastly, Eugina, how do you see the future of generative AI evolving in the business landscape?
That is a great question, because I always think about, the future, where I want myself to be in 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, with AI, as a society or as business leaders, we don't have that vision, because we're still learning. So this is not the future vision from me, but this is what I hope will happen in the future, 2, 3, 4 years from now. So we'll get the better customer experience. The chatbots that will design with generative AI for many different industries, healthcare, finance, travel, retail, you name it.
Yeah.
If you go on any website and there's a chatbot and it's Gen AI chatbot, I hope it's going to be providing really good experience, tailored to me, and this is where RAG will come in. So it's not going to, hallucinate. And it's also maybe will be a little bit empathetic. I'm not sure how you do your prompting, but I talk to the, GPTs that I created for the prompts. I talk to them as they were human.
Likewise.
So, yes. And the funny thing is, it like wishes me a good day as well. If I treat it nicely, it wishes me a good day as well. I believe in one of the Asian countries, I'm not sure if it's in Korea, there's a company that developed technology for and again, it's Gen AI, to reduce the yelling for their customer representatives. So they would enjoy their job more. So I hope that this is the direction of Gen AI for customer chatbots, is that we're going to be treating each other more humanly.
Absolutely.
Number one. Number two, that we will be more productive.
Absolutely.
So, and productive, it's hopefully will give us some time back to spend with our families. And by being productive, creating, for example, content or creating plans. I've created a whole bunch of different plans in ChatGPT with the right prompting, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it will help me to launch what I want to launch much faster. And hopefully that productivity is not going to keep me at my desk for, 14 hours, but hopefully I will go in and enjoy a little bit of, what's outside, or I will read. So productivity is not for the sake of productivity, but productivity for allowing us to enjoy life. Third, you and I were very analytical people. We thrive on analysis. Yeah. So I hope in the future, instead of us using our, brain to analyze. Gen AI will help us do some initial analysis that we can do. Instead of doing low level analysis, we can do a high strategic level analysis for different functions. So I'm hoping we can optimize product design and development. We can design different prototypes with Gen AI and pass forward the innovation. I'm also hoping that for sector specific, industry specific, it will allow to improve healthcare, because right now it's all disjointed, and hopefully Gen AI will help people have personalized health plans, prescription plans that they can afford. And again, it's in the future. The other thing is for healthcare, I'm hoping that for pharma, the drug development will be accelerated and we can create drugs that people won't suffer.
Yeah.
And I know it's already started. There is some research where there's medications being developed. So if we can, AI can help with that, maybe not 5 years from now, but maybe 10 years from now, that would be fantastic. And we already discussed finance, and the industry that I didn't mention is retail. We all buy things online, in stores. So if we can make that experience more enjoyable and more fun.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I fully agree and resonate with you, Gina. I think the way I look at generative AI, it's another automation tool. It's an automation to just not only make your processes and systems efficient, but your daily life. Just as you mentioned, this from customer experiences, from marketing, from our daily interactions, not only from an enterprise perspective, but also from a consumer perspective, how we interface. It's from that perspective, I definitely see a good future in the way where we can really day-to-day basis, we can leverage it compared to other technologies where it was comparatively little slow to adapt. What I see is with this with generative AI, I see that not only like as an enterprises, but as an individual, I can see the benefits on a daily basis. So with that, Eugina, thank you so much for taking time to discuss this with me. We really appreciate, and hopefully I can have another round of conversation sometime in future.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Eugina.